This video is a bit of a rant. It's about my personal, deepest learning from studying multiple psychotherapies and especially IFS these past years. What I'm going to be talking about today is the importance of appreciating, acknowledging, and maybe even loving our protectors, defenses, and all the parts that basically, because of past experiences, think they need to defend or protect us from potentially harmful situations, from pain, from old pain that could come up in us. So the view I want to be talking about today, the view of our defenses, our protectors, is one that sees two sides at the same time. Yes, these parts are often creating problems in our life. They act in childish ways, all of that. But they also really try their best, and they have our best interest in mind, even if they don't always use the best strategies to get there. Now, I don't know about you, obviously, but for me, this view of defenses and this view of my limiting beliefs, my contractions, the weird behaviors I have when I get into stressful situations, this view of it that, yes, this may not be helpful right now, but it's coming from parts in me that are trying their best, is not necessarily something I grew up with or something I learned in the first kind of approaches or courses or trainings I did in personal growth. I often got taught a very different mindset, a mindset of, oh, those are just your limiting beliefs, and you just have to kind of overwrite your limiting beliefs or question them or teach yourself more positive beliefs. Or there was this idea of, oh, it's just the ego, like, don't even believe those parts, they're just coming from your mind, it's not true. Or there was the idea that you should defend against these negative parts or even cut them off because they're holding me back. And as I was kind of learning in these different fields that I started in, I often had a very negative view of my own defenses. I tried to cut through them, get rid of them. I tried to force myself open, break open my shell. All of these different kind of images and metaphors and kind of attitudes towards defenses I'd been taught. And even though, yes, I've had very powerful experiences using these images and metaphors, and yes, I've also experienced change and transformation in different ways, I found that the more I was kind of pushing and on one level looking at parts of me as negative and not valuable and, oh, I should get rid of that, the more I kind of started fighting against myself. The more I was in a struggle of, oh, this is bad, this is against myself. And I found that the more I kept going with that, the more I got to a place of, this can't really be how it's meant to be. This can't really be how I'm meant to be with myself. So I started really questioning a lot of these stories I had just taken on and kept telling myself about me. Now, in these past years, I was more exploring approaches that work trauma-informed or that work with developmental trauma, and especially IFS, which is the internal family system, which is a parts-based approach to inner work, therapy, coaching. And in many of these modern approaches, there is a very different story being told about our parts and our defenses. And the basic story is that these parts, these defenses, are incredibly intelligent adaptations to the situation we were living in. If in our childhood, in our school, in wherever, we experienced certain problematic situations, the way our system adapted to these situations, if I was bullied, or if I didn't really have friends, or if I didn't have the good grades and I was trying to live with that, yes, I developed protectors, I developed defenses in these situations, but these protectors and defenses are incredibly intelligent adaptations that were the best my system could do to deal with these situations that were painful, that were bad for me. And this appreciation for the intelligence of the adaptation is incredibly important, at least for me, in how I'm working with myself and other people, in how I relate to myself, how clients relate to themselves as they are exploring also the patterns in their life that are creating problems. The language for these inner protectors, defenses, I have found most useful for myself, and most simple actually, is the language of the internal family system. And I want to just give you a really simple 3-step map for how IFS looks at defenses and looks at why they are intelligent adaptations. So if we imagine this as happening to a person, at some point in time they have a traumatic event. A traumatic event means it's an event that their system can't digest, can't process, and what stays from this event is a burden. That's pain. That can be emotional pain, physical pain, energetic pain, shame, anger, sadness, whatever. Something I couldn't digest and that's stored in my system. And that whenever it gets activated, just comes online again and can potentially overwhelm my system. Whenever I have these burdens created in my system will also create protectors. And protectors are parts of my psyche that are trying to avoid the pain, both the stored pain, but also pain from situations that could create something similar. So if I experienced events because of people bullying me, these protectors will try to avoid situations in which I could be bullied, but also situations that could remind me of the bullying so that the memories could come up. But at the same time, the protectors are trying to fulfill the needs I have. So trying to find strategies of being with other kids and later other people that don't lead to this, but somehow help me make friends and be close with people and all of that. So basically, protectors in this IFS model are parts that are trying to navigate the world, knowing that there is pain in the system and trying to avoid that pain, also from these situations that have created pain, knowing that there are certain situations that are potentially dangerous, but then trying to navigate the world in the most intelligent way they can. They are trying their best to protect the system and navigate the world. My personal experiences with protectors have really shown me that they are, in their mind, and if I look at my life and the life of clients I've worked with, they are such intelligent responses to the painful and problematic situations people were in. Protectors have always, at least in my experience when I've been with them, found incredibly creative ways of dealing with childhood pain. If a person was bullied and they have protectors that avoid certain situations in which groups are forming, because their protectors have made the experience when groups are forming is a time when it's more probable to be bullied. So whenever they're in new groups, they sit back, they observe, they try to be as small and quiet as possible. And yes, that makes it difficult to meet people. Yes, that makes it difficult to feel seen and acknowledged, but it's also a really intelligent adaptation to the bullying situation in the first place. And the deep insight, and for me it's by now really a felt experience of protectors, our defenses, always have positive intent. They're always trying to do something good for us. This is actually a basic tenet of the internal family system, but it's so true. And it's one of the things that clients I work with, people in the courses I work with, regularly experience this. The protectors we have are really trying their best. They always have a positive intent. They're not just doing what they do out of because they have nothing better to do, but they're doing it because they try their best to protect the system. This appreciation has fundamentally shifted the way I work with myself and with other people. It's fundamentally shifted the way I am with parts in me that are creating problems, patterns I have. Because yes, I still want to look at those. Yes, I still want to take responsibility for those and change parts of that. But I also want to do that from a level of acknowledgement and appreciation. And it's really showed me why some of the things I was trying in the past, where I was trying to overwrite negative beliefs, or I was trying to get rid of negative behavior, just cannot work. Because overriding negative belief, meaning kind of trying to override protectors' strategies or perspectives on the world that are built on burdens from the past, doesn't work. Because trying to cut off a protector doesn't work as long as it still thinks it needs to protect the exile and pain. It's that these fundamental shifts have really deeply changed the way I talk to myself, I feel about myself. I am much less critical of myself in a negative way, in this inner critic way, because I have this understanding for protectors doing their best. I'm very glad that I said this is a rant, because by now I feel like I'm just ranting. So this appreciation of protectors, this appreciation for the effort they put in, for the intelligence of their strategies, for their positive intent, all of this is really important for me. And at the same time, it doesn't change that it's still us, me, hopefully from self, that has to take responsibility for protectors' behaviors. Because even though they're trying their best, they have positive intent, they often do weird shit because they act like children. Most of our protectors were created in childhood, and they were somehow stuck in that time, and they still act like that. So yes, it's important to take responsibility for these parts, but it's also important to do it from this acknowledgement and appreciation. I'm very happy that I said this is a rant, because I don't really have a good endpoint. I wish I had one. Maybe I can come up with one. But I really just wanted to share this perspective on appreciating protectors, because I find it so central to how people can be with themselves and how we can do our inner work that's needed from a place of acknowledgement rather than fighting ourselves, because that's not nice. Maybe that's a good ending point. I hope you enjoyed this rant. See you soon.
what's around the next corner.